You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Asking me lovingly to come and follow you.
Good morning. This is Sister Lavina Francis Pamet. I'm a Franciscan Sister of the Sacred Heart. And this is Dare to Love show. I'm your host. And today we have our guest from Thursday, August the 3rd, we had Susan Flansburgh, who's the author of a book called Feels Like Home, a single Catholic women's guide to religious life in the United States. Welcome, Susan. And, you know, that was the part one of the interview. This is now the part two. And now for this segment of the interview, we hope to be able to delve into what is in the book. Especially, I really would not pass by the fact that there are practical steps for discerners, especially those who really, really are serious about, well, what do I need to do so that I can check out all these different communities? But just having the book in your hand is really very important because there's narratives in here. I guess, as Susan has described last time, 20 years worth of experience that is, right here in this book that you can grab. So a little bit more about Susan. Susan has worked with Benedictine sisters for 20 years as communications director. That's really directed to vocation ministry, discernment, and pretty much getting to know sisters along the way, different communities, and ergo, this book. And also as a writer for the NRVC's Vision magazine and also Horizon magazine that is produced through the National Religious Vocation Conference, which is dedicated to vocation ministry. And that's why I'm calling you the expert on pretty much like what is the lowdown on these different communities, right? So Susan, welcome. I will let you introduce yourself and perhaps, I know I heard the name Sister Phyllis. What is that all about? Because she's a dear friend. Tell us about that too.
Thanks for having me back, Sister Lovina. I'm thrilled to be here. As a younger woman, I found a job posting for communications director for this group of Benedictine sisters in my area, and I could not wait to get over there and apply. I met my future very, very close friend, Sister Phyllis McMurray, and in fact, she's featured in the book at one point.
Good.
She was a mentor that really changed my life and set the stage for my passion for vocations. So she was a vocation director at the time and then became prioress and has since passed. So I miss her every day. And this book is dedicated to her and all of the Benedictines who took me under their wing. It's a compilation of everything I've learned about various types of Catholic communities for women. And the reason that it's so important is that every vocation inquirer we had come to us had really limited understanding of what was available out there. So we had a lot of women who were clearly apostolic come to a monastic convent and not be where they needed to be. So we would send them on their way to another place. But even then, our vocation directors today are slammed with work. Every single vocation director I talked to wore 4 or 5 different hats, as Sister Lavina, I'm sure, can corroborate. And so they don't have the time to learn about all the different types of religious life either. They have a high up view of it, but really getting into a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of what it means is important to the inquirer. And as Sister Stephanie, today's vocation director at the Benedictines, says in her preface, if she had had this book available to her when she was discerning about 15 years ago, it would have saved her a lot of time, because she went to other communities trying to figure out where she belonged. And this won't tell you where you belong, but it helps narrow the path.
So let's backtrack a little bit. So I have the book, and on the forward on page 9, I want to read this if that's okay. It's
Sure.
so imagine a young woman who kind of gets hit in the heart of, oh my gosh, I think I want to be a sister. So here it goes. Am I supposed to become a sister? Jesus looked at the woman who asked. She obviously was sincere. Her tone was urgent, as if her life depended on it. Please tell me, she repeated. Are you calling me, Lord? Should I become a sister? Jesus smiled kindly. He got this question all the time. That's like meeting someone for the first time and asking, am I supposed to marry you? The woman, encouraged by his gentle tone, went on. What should I ask then? Jesus beamed at her. How about, would you like to grab a cup of coffee? I just so love that forward, because it's like, especially when you're young, it's like, your heart is pounding, kind of like falling in love, and, something happens, like maybe an event, or, the Holy Spirit just comes upon you, and it's like, oh my gosh, maybe, I don't know, you went to confession, or you went to a young adult event or youth event, and it's like, oh my gosh, I think I'm being called. And this is quite a normal response, is probably called to religious life. And perhaps something like a book like this, it's great that, a young person would think about that. But, like even at a young age, or even an older age, it's not overnight. So I think that's very important to say. It took you 20 years to kind of produce a book like this. It's a labor of love. And patience is a virtue that is sorely needed, as well as, I guess, that discernment time and information. And this book kind of has it. So perhaps what would be helpful is to kind of, short of like presenting, here's what the book is about, but kind of maybe, how about we start looking at what's in here. So first of all, this is a guide, and so it introduces people into an overview of the different religious communities and types. So there's the apostolic, missionary, monastic, cloistered communities. And then from all of that, the different orders and charisms or gifts, particular gifts, personalities per se of different communities. So Susan, do you want to walk through this book in terms of how you divided it up, including like, okay, there's, reflection questions, etc. So go ahead.
First of all, it was really directed by vocation directors. I called, I bet 12 vocation directors, and asked them what they would want to see in a book like this. And they gave me a list, and I really followed that list. So I begin with the different types of communities. There's the first thing that appears before each community description is a story of a real sister, a sister who shares her vocation journey, which oftentimes runs right through or alongside, anyway, the potential for marriage and satisfying careers. And somehow she keeps hearing this. Well, hearing, I don't even want to call it hearing. She feels a nudge or a pull towards something that is bigger than she is and more meaningful than whatever it is that she's doing in the boardroom on a Thursday afternoon. So it begins with the story, the narrative, and then of a sister. We can talk about Ana Gonzalez, who is a Dominican sister of peace, who took, I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years to discern her call. Mm-hmm. It takes a while for most people. And she started and stopped and started and stopped and ended up in love. She called it crazy in love. And it wasn't enough to keep her from entering the Dominicans. So she's very, very happy. She's an ecstatic person if you ever have a chance to meet her. Then she describes a day in her life. And so that's here. And then we have a Q&A aside from the story narrative itself, that with questions like, what's convent life like? How did you come to know them? What about the come and see retreats? So you have a real sister saying, well, this is what I experienced. And then questions for reflection were actually written by Sister Stephanie McDonald, who is the vocation director at the Benedictine monastery that I referenced, because she's a vocation director and she knows what the inquirers are really wanting to explore, and these are the questions that she wants to explore with them.
Of course.
So I think that's a good start.
Right.
Of what's here. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we're going to go for a short break. And when we come back, we're going to continue with, so you're starting with like narrative and then, a day in the life of, which is very practical, and then some reflection questions. Some of what happens from the reflection questions kind of also is part of the discernment of what resonates with the person who's reading it, right? So, when we come back, we're going to continue with, so like this one is an apostolic. We're going to continue with perhaps the stories of the different types of religious communities and congregations, a way of life, a different day in the life of, and different reflection questions. So we'll come back in a minute or two. Don't go away. And Susan, we'll see you in a moment.
My God, I am ready to begin. Here I am, I come to follow you.
Community is core to Catholic Charity's founding mission. For more than 100 years, we have met people and families where they are, serving anyone in need, regardless of their faith, gender, race, or ethnicity. As our world absorbs the economic, political, and social aftershocks of the pandemic, 50% or more of the 6 million people living in Cook and Lake counties have little or no savings. They are a paycheck away from zero. We are deeply grateful to everyone in the Catholic Charities community who partners with us to alleviate the suffering of the people we serve and offer them a better path forward. We are witnessing a message of mercy and hope to a world very much in need. Learn more at CatholicCharities.net.
You're 44, for me teaching. When I started here, there were teachers here that had taught me when I was a student. Now I'm the old person. Right now, I teach junior high math. I love when kids find what I'm teaching to be fun and they get it. I see that light bulb go off and it's a thrill. People are always amazed. What? You're here for 44 years? It's hard for me to believe, frankly. I love what I do. Every summer I think, oh, I miss the classroom. Even on the weekends, I think I can't wait to get back on Monday and teach those quadratic equations.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
For more than 20 years, Catholic Charities Adult Protective Services has been advocating for seniors who are the victims of abuse, neglect, confinement, or financial exploitation. With our partners at local, city, and state agencies, our trained case managers follow through on every concern that is brought to our attention in a cooperative way to ensure that our seniors are safe and protected. According to the Illinois Department on Aging, last year nearly 21,000 cases of elder abuse were reported in Illinois. Of these, only 5% were reported by seniors themselves. So raising awareness is an important part of this issue. If you are concerned about a senior you know, call 800-252-8966. That's 800-252-8966. With your help, we can stop elder abuse and look out for the seniors in our lives.
Sometimes I wonder what this journey will bring, and you guide me faithfully to find a home in you. Here I am. Did I hear?
We are back. This is Sister Lavina Francis Pamet, Franciscan Sister of the Sacred Heart, your host for Dare to Love show. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Sister Beth Murphy, who is a Springfield Dominican. She would like to invite everyone on a live streamed Mass at 10:15 a.m. Saturday Central, August 19. This is the 150th anniversary of their founding, and it's going to be live streamed because their chapel is going to be full. There are two bishops who are co-presiding. One is coming from Orange County, and his name is Bishop Kevin Van, who is one of the most important personages with the sisters. Also, Bishop Tilka of Peoria, who is a graduate of Marian Catholic, which is sponsored by, of course, the Springfield Dominicans. So, and before the break, we have been talking about Susan Flansburgh, who's the author of the book Feels Like Home, A Single Catholic Woman's Guide to Religious Life in the U.S., about the structure of the book, which is really, I guess, co-designed with vocation directors that she has interviewed all these years while she was writing, so that it's very much focused on practical guide to discerners who are looking into the option of becoming a religious sister, Catholic religious sister. So the first one that has been mentioned is that first it has a narrative of a particular sister, and then different sisters who have been interviewed over the years, and also like a day in the life of what happens in the convent, what might be, let's say, an apostolic life look like. And then there is a reflection set of reflection questions that someone who's reading the book or is discerning can read and help them kind of, is this something resonating in me, or is this something like, that's not me, and in itself would help. So welcome back, Susan, and thank you again for sharing this book. So what's next? So you have like the apostolic life, another chapter, or maybe not a chapter, but a section would be what?
And there are several sisters whose vocation stories are featured throughout this first section, where the day in a life is contained, and the questions for reflection follow every single chapter, and they are particular to the chapter in a way. For instance, in the atheist to missionary nun story, that has questions like, what kinds of activities are you drawn to? Well, the point of that is really to show the discerner how she might feel about what she's going to do day in and day out. If she wants a lot of activity, if a discerner wants a high level of activity, she might not be necessarily suited to contemplative cloistered life, say.
Mm-hmm.
If she loves to travel, she might very well be suited to missionary life. So those questions for reflection are at least slightly geared to the previous story that is included there.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 4 of those. And then we move on to a section called Is Religious Life for You? And that also has every section has stories in it, and this one begins with Jomara Mendez Hernandez, who is a Dominican sister who dreamed of being a fashion designer, and in fact had a very successful fashion design business in the Dominican Republic before she changed her mind about everything. And that is an introduction to the section that has, for instance, a chapter on reaching out to a vocation director. The vocation directors all said inquirers need to understand we're just people. We're human beings. We are not trying to rope them into our community at all. What we're trying to do is listen to them and kind of reflect back to them what we're hearing, and then telling them our wisdom about it. Come here and meet our sisters. See what it's like. Go elsewhere and see what that's like. This book helps them do that. Say to an inquirer, read this. There's a lot of options in here for you. It will help you. So,
And towards the end of the book, this is the part where it's like, yes, something practical, like, oh, what do I do? You've got all sorts of listing for books and, what are the next steps to do? And of course, very important, work with a vocation director and even a spiritual guide. Those are very important. But,
absolutely.
Again, we don't want to take for granted, well, this is a guide for Catholics. People might not know this, but there are religious in other non-Catholic denominations. And that's kind of beyond the show. But just to make sure that, I have gotten a call and they're not even maybe practicing Catholics, and they would need to go and be active in their parish. So practical things like that. So this book is well recommended, available at Amazon.com. Just type in Feels Like Home. And what was the title that, I think, a Catholic guide, right?
I would say whatever you put after that, whether it's Catholic Sisters or Catholic religion or anything, this book is going to come up. But you got to do Feels Like Home, Catholic vocation,
Right.
or something like that. Yeah.
And I just wanted to, I guess, kind of what's next, because now you've got this out, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't end there. So, is there a preview of maybe a next book, Susan?
Well, for right now, I really am focusing on trying to get the word out about this book. And I may launch a website that continues to add new stories to it. There's also a Facebook page called Catholic Vocation Guide that features other communities on it. I keep including events for other communities that I come and sees and etc. But yeah, I am already starting on another book. Yeah, it's on death, and it's going to include Catholic sisters in reflecting on how to live your life knowing that you could die any minute. So,
And I think that is also for everyone, because when you're young and you haven't lost anyone, you don't think about it. But, having lost someone, or a lot of losses that's happening in our world, it's very important to live our life as if we don't have another day.
yes.
That's only the time when you can be free to really respond to God's call. Thank you so much, Susan, for this wonderful, wonderful book. And I just want to invite communities out there, discerners out there, parishes, campus ministers, and parents, grandparents, everyone. If you have a way to just get the word out about this book, or even perhaps provide contact Susan. And by the way, Susan, how can we contact you if we need to get a hold of you?
Sure. I'll just give you my email address. It's S as in Susan, EFLANS, numeral 1 at Gmail.
Okay.
And anyone is welcome to email me. Sure.
Great. Thanks, Susan. And so, if you can provide, I don't know, like a grant or funding for a website that would really help people get in touch with different religious sisters, and especially for discerners to be able to have that option of discerning with different religious sisters in terms of their vocation. And also, it's not just, as you said, not to recruit or get the numbers, but to help people, even to just have, this is an option, but if we can help young people to discern what is the next step in life, that is already something that is a treasure and a gift to the world. And that
Women
is this
are
book.
still discerning. They are still discerning. And it's hard for them to figure out where to do that. So absolutely.
That's right. Thank you, Susan, and God bless you and all your work.
Well, thank you.
Blessings and best wishes on your next work and with everything. And to all listeners out there, to all who are watching this on social media, we hope that you can find that courage and the grace to be able to respond to God's call. God bless you, and thank you for listening.
I am ready to begin. Here I am, I come to follow you.
My heart sings of the love that I found in you.
A love that dwells in all of your creation.
Sometimes I wonder what tomorrow brings. Give me the grace to love and to be faithful, to be more like you.